All right. Welcome back to the Loreverse. So today we are talking about one of the most important architectural feats in comic book history, not just for one character, but for an entire mythology. Because when people talk about the greatest era of Green Lantern, there is one name that sits on the throne, and that is Geoff Johns. His run didn't just fix a character, it built a cathedral, okay? He took a struggling franchise and turned it into the backbone of the DC universe, introducing a full emotional spectrum and delivering events so massive they made Crisis on Infinite Earths look like a skirmish. So let's dive into why the Geoff Johns era is the definitive blueprint for Green Lantern. This is your boy Stevie Hayes. I cannot wait to cover this. This is one of my favorite comic book runs of all time. I love it so much that, for Christmas, I got the Geoff Johns Green Lantern Omnibus, both of them. And I'm pretty sure there's a third one, which I'm going to get soon as well. But I wanted to cover this with the Lanterns trailer coming out. I want to explain to you guys why I love Green Lantern and why so many fans love Green Lantern so much. And it's because of this guy, Geoff Johns. So let's dive into this. So before 2004, the Green Lantern mythos was in a dark and lonely place. In the 90s, DC took over their Silver Age icon Hal Jordan and broke him. After the city he swore to protect, Coast City, was wiped off the map, he spiraled. He became Parallax, murdered the Guardians, snapped Sinestro's neck, and decimated the Corps. For a decade, the Green Lantern was just one guy, Kyle Rayner, carrying a torch in a graveyard. And the cosmic scale of Green Lantern stories has shrunk dramatically. So by the early 2000s, Green Lantern needed a major reinvention, and that's where Geoff Johns comes into play. Then came the Green Lantern Rebirth, and Johns didn't just say to us, Hal is back. He introduced the concept of emotional entities. He revealed that Parallax wasn't just Hal having a breakdown, it was an ancient yellow parasitic entity of fear that had infected him. And this changed everything because it meant that yellow wasn't just a color green rings couldn't hit. It was a sentient cosmic force of terror. So by vindicating Hal, Geoff Johns opened the door to a universe where emotions themselves are weapons. So after Rebirth, Geoff Johns did something fans have been waiting years for. He rebuilt the Green Lantern Corps. Not just one lantern protecting Earth, but thousands of lanterns across the galaxy. And the Corps returned with iconic characters like Sinestro, Kilowog, Tomar-Re, and of course Earth lanterns like John Stewart, Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner. And for the first time in years, the Green Lantern universe felt massive again. But Geoff Johns was just getting started. And John's greatest contribution wasn't just bringing back the Corps, it was giving the universe a map of the soul. Because before this, the ring was just a tool fueled by will. And Geoff Johns expanded this into the emotional spectrum, where every color represented a primal force. Red, right, is rage, led by Trocatus, fueled by blood and hate. Orange, which is led by Larfleeze, the one-man corpse of greed. And then we have blue, which is hope, right? And we have the healers, who can only reach full power when a Green Lantern is nearby. And then we have the indigo, which is compassion, which is a mysterious tribe of reformed criminals. And we have violet, which is love, and that's the star sapphires, proving lore can be as dangerous as it is beautiful. And this turned the DC space sector into a political powder keg. It wasn't just cops versus robbers anymore. It was a 7-way ideological war for the fate of the galaxy. And if Rebirth was the foundation, then Sinestro Corps War was just the first floor. This wasn't just a battle, it was a shift in status quo. So Sinestro didn't just want to kill Hal, he wanted to prove that fear was a better way to rule the universe than will. But the crowning achievement was Blackest Night. Geoff Johns took a tiny piece of 80s lore, which is the Blackest Night prophecy, and turned it into a universal zombie epic. And the stakes were, every hero who had ever died, Superman, Batman, Aquaman, returned as a Black Lantern powered by death. And we see the Union, which is like to defeat the darkness, the warring factions of the spectrum had to unite. And it was the ultimate payoff. And it proved that while emotions can divide us, the white light of life is only possible when we acknowledge all of it. Now, I do want to give you guys a quick deep dive into the three biggest stories: Sinestro Corps War, Blackest Night, and Brightest Day. So let's just jump into that. So before this event, here I am about to explain Sinestro Corps War. So before this event, Sinestro was just a disgraced former Lantern in a blue and black suit. And Geoff Johns reimagined him as a cosmic revolutionary. And Sinestro realized that willpower wasn't enough to bring order to a chaotic universe. Only fear could do that. So here's what Sinestro did. Sinestro retreated to the antimatter universe and forged a new kind of power ring, not green, but yellow. He didn't just recruit villains, he recruited the most terrifying beings in existence, beings capable of instilling great fear. And the war wasn't just a series of small skirmishes, it was a full-scale invasion of the Green Lantern homeworld. So Sinestro's forces, including heavy hitters like Arkillo and a fear-infected cyborg Superman, decimated the Green Lantern ranks. And this story changed the GL lore forever, because for the first time in eons, the Guardians of the Universe rewrote the Book of Oa. They authorized the Green Lanterns to use lethal force. This turned the intergalactic cops into intergalactic soldiers, a moral gray area that Sinestro actually wanted, proving that to beat them. And the Lanterns had to become more like Sinestro. Now let's get into Blackest Night. So in Sinestro, if the Sinestro Cold War was a war movie, Blackest Night was a survival horror. And this event tapped into the deepest fear of every hero in the DC universe, which is the return of the dead. So for years, John dropped hints about a prophecy found in the forbidden chapter of the Book of Oa. It spoke of a Blackest Night where the dead would rise to extinguish all emotion. And so the entity of death, Necron, sent out millions of black power rings. And these rings didn't just reanimate corpses, they targeted the emotional hearts of the living. So to a Black Lantern, your heart is a literal battery of emotion they need to consume. So this wasn't just a Green Lantern problem. Dead Justice Leaguers like Aquaman, Elongated Man, and even Martian Manhunter rose as Black Lanterns, and it forced every core on the emotional spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, to form an uneasy alliance. And this was the birth of the New Guardians, proving that only the combined light of all the emotions, the white light, could push back the void of death. And then we have Brightest Day. So after the darkness of Blackest Night, the DC universe woke up to a miracle. 12 heroes and villains who had been dead for years were suddenly, inexplicably, brought back to life by the white light. So Brightest Day wasn't really about war, but it was about a purpose. The White Lantern entity, which is the embodiment of light itself, gave each of the resurrected characters a specific task they had to complete to earn their life back. And so for a brief moment, we saw the ultimate power, the white power ring, and it represented a sum total of the emotional spectrum. And it showed us that will is just one part of a larger living whole. And this era did explore the consequences of coming back. So it dealt with the trauma of heroes like Hawkman and Firestorm trying to find their place in a world that had moved on. But more importantly, it revealed that Earth itself was a hiding place for the life entity, making our planet the most important strategic point in the entire multiverse. Now, the reason why this matters for live action, because when we talk about the future of Green Lantern in movies or TV, this should be the roadmap. Phase 1 is you establish the core. Phase 2, you introduce the rivalry, which is the yellow. And then phase 3, you should unleash the spectrum, which is the war of light. And Geoff Johns proved that Green Lantern isn't just a guy with a ring. It's a story about what it means to be alive, to feel, and to overcome the inevitable darkness of the end. And so this leads us to like the most important question. Why has it been so hard to get Green Lantern right on screen? And the answer is simple here. It's the Geoff Johns standard. Because when fans think of Green Lantern now, we don't think of a guy in a jumpsuit fighting a giant fist. We think of space opera. We think of Star Wars meets Game of Thrones. And the thing is that the thing that live action needs to learn is, number one, the cops dynamic, right? Geoff Johns' run succeeded because it focused on the chemistry between Hal, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, and Kyle Rayner. And we want to see the buddy cop dynamic, of the upcoming Lantern series, not just a lone hero. Also, there's a horror factor too, because the Sinestro Corps and the Black Lanterns aren't cartoon villains. They are terrifying. And live action needs to lean into, the cosmic horror of a Red Lantern vomiting, blood, or the physical weight of the yellow rings. Also, you can't just show Earth. World building matters. You have to show Oa. You have to show Cord. You have to show the vast alien bureaucracy of the Guardians. And the biggest thing to me is the visual language, because in the 2011 movie, the constructs did feel like toys. And in the Johns era, and in the Geoff Johns era, the constructs are extensions of the soul. And we want to see John Stewart's architectural precision versus Hal Jordan's fighter pilot instinct. So the Geoff Johns run set the bar so high that anything less than a galactic epic feels like a failure. And we don't just want a superhero movie or show, we want to see the War of Light. So Geoff Johns didn't just write a comic, he curated a legend. He took a concept from the 1940s and made it feel like the most modern, essential part of the DC universe. He gave us a reason to care about the light, and more importantly, a reason to fear the dark. And if the upcoming DCU Lantern show is even half as ambitious as the Geoff Johns run, we are in for the greatest era of DC on screen. So I really wanted to break that down, why, I'm so passionate about Green Lantern. It's because of this era. The Geoff Johns Green Lantern era is what made me a Green Lantern diehard. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys felt educated while we got to dig deep into the lore of the Geoff Johns Green Lantern run. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and please show some love, stay crispy, and peace out.